Good morning and welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to be looking at the question: Are communication skills essential for business success? Well, the answer is yes and no. If you're a first time listener to the podcast, just hang in there and eventually it'll make sense. But if you're a long time listener of the show, then you know that when it comes to sales, business, marketing, personal development, a lot of things are contextual. Who are you talking to? What business are you in? What's your goal? Things like that. And those are the important variables that determine what you should do, where you should go, how you should go about things. So, are communication skills essential for business success? I'm not one of those people who is going to give you what's that word? An absolute answer and say yes, or an absolute answer and say no, because it's contextual. It depends. So, the answer is both yes and no. Now, especially for the no part, for those of us who spent some time growing up in Lagos or other trading cities, you know that eventually you run into people who are really poor at communicating, but these people seem to be good business people. You look at these people, you know that you're clearly educated, more educated than they are, you're more sophisticated than they are, you can carry on the conversation much more smoothly than these people are. But it's obvious that they do have some business knack, some business savvy, and they are obviously better business people than you. And that should be enough to start giving us a hint that apart from communication skills, there might be some other things at play, some other dynamics that we ought to pay attention to. So, so, of course, if by communication you mean that we have to be able to eloquently express ourselves, then the answer is no, and communication skills is not essential for business success. If by that we mean being able to eloquently express ourselves, remember throughout the rest of the podcast that this is the qualification that I'm hinging everything on. Yeah, so the answer is no, because you're going to find people who are not eloquent but who are good in business. Now, however, communication doesn't stand in a vacuum, and communication is usually in reference to communicating truth. That is, if you're a student of philosophy. Those of us who studied philosophy back in uni, you were told that speech or communication is for communicating truth. So, in a philosophical sense, that's what communication is about. But in a business sense, communication is all about communicating value. Because when we're trying to move our product, sell our service, or do whatever it is, so excuse me, we are trying to communicate value to the other person. Buy my product, buy my service, because if you buy ABC, you're going to get the value, which is XYZ. So, communication for an ordinary man, not for the philosopher, is either good or effective. That's in relation to the value equation. So, if we're talking communication, we're looking at value and we're looking at results. So, let's bear that in mind, especially for those folks who believe that good communication skills means being eloquent. You have good elocution skills, no typos. What else? You handle yourself very well. So I'm speaking to you types. Let's pay attention to the thrust of my argument here. So, since value is the main thing and results are the main thing, then if we can pass across value when we're talking to potential clients, potential customers, or potential investors or stakeholders or whatever it is, if you're able to pass across value and you're able to get them to take the next step, then that is good communication. Even though technically speaking, your email has a couple of typos, your tenses are poor, and when it comes to pronunciation, you are pronouncing some things wrong and you don't have good diction. Good communication has taken place because you've been able to pass across value and you've been able to get people to take the next step. That's the reason why that person that you see in church who looks like a Raz, Raz businesswoman who sells, gosh, I don't know, Ankara at is it Balogun Market or whatever. That's the reason why she's a better business person than you are, because despite her failings, she's able to pass across value when talking to potential clients or talking to potential investors, people who are going to give her money and help her business grow, and she's able to get them to take the next step, even though she's speaking half English, half Yoruba, and if she's typing a text, it's full of typos and the spelling is wrong. Like, for instance, instead of writing account, ACCOUNT, she writes account, AKANT. For those of you who are Yoruba listeners of the show, Please don't take offense. I'm just trying to use examples that I've come across in real life. So I'm not trying to perpetuate any Yoruba stereotypes over here. So she's good at communicating, even though she can't spell account. That's because she can pass across value. She can get people to take the next step. Now, this dynamic is in place no matter how ineloquent you are, or no matter how eloquent you are. So, in other words, if that particular Yoruba woman who trades fabric in Balogun market was extremely eloquent, yes, that might boost her results, but the underlying dynamic is in play. And that's the reason why we run into folks who are put together but can't be good at business. And there are folks who aren't too good put together from a communication standpoint, but they seem to do excellent in business. So if you can't pass across value, if you can't get the desired outcomes when you're speaking with people, then that is bad communication, even if you're extremely posh and even if you're extremely eloquent. So if you are smooth as Prince Charles, but you can't get the desired outcomes when you're talking with people, then that's bad communication. And that's one of the reasons why folks said that Charles' mom, Queen, what was her name? Was it Queen Elizabeth? I can't remember. So that's one of the reasons why people say that the Queen was very good at communications, because she knew how to get the job done. So it wasn't because of her posh accent and because she's from the higher classes of society. Maybe that was part of it, because she was really good at a couple of things that we're going to be able to tease out as we go on in the episode. So, where was I? I kind of lost my tangent when I started talking about Charles and Queen Elizabeth. Okay, well, and I was just trying to show that it's not about how posh or how eloquent you are. So now that it's about value, and we're talking about communicating value, there's one thing that I hope stands out, and that is, before we communicate value, you have to first understand value. Now, remember that for this podcast, I've been speaking about communicating value in a shorthand way by saying that communicating value is when those of us who are hustlers, business people, entrepreneurs, we sit across the table, or we have our PowerPoint presentation, or we're in the person's office or in the person's house, and we tell the person, you should buy ABC because of the XYZ results that you're going to get. So buy this My Balenciaga bag because it is the best one in town, and Rita Dominic is the only person who is wearing it so far. So if you get this Balenciaga bag, you're one in town. So forgive me, I'm not sure if Balenciaga makes bags or shoes, because I'm not a fashion person. Remember, my wife says I have the fashion style of a Ghanaian school teacher. So whether Balenciaga makes bags or shoes is besides the point. I'm just saying that that is what communicating value is. Do ABC because of XYZ results that you're going to get. Now that is shorthand. I'm using shorthand here. So please don't quote me in the future and saying that this is all communicating value is about. So now, before you can make a statement like that, ABC, that you should do ABC because of XYZ results you will get, buy the Balenciaga bag because this, that, or buy the Toyota Venza because that, or book me to be the MC for your wedding because this is this and that. So before you can say that, you have to understand what value is in the first place. And in this context, value is what is important, or what is desirable, or what is valuable to the customer in the first place. We have to figure all this out before we can start trying to toast the potential customer. So back to the Balenciaga example. If you're talking to someone like me who has the fashion sense of a Ghanaian school teacher, saying buy this Balenciaga bag because you'll be one in town, and only Rita Dominic has one in Nigeria, so you'll be one in town, that is not going to pass any muster with me because I have the fashion sense of a Ghanaian school teacher. So it's not important to me, even if I have all the money in the world. If you're trying to get me to buy it for my wife, maybe that's a different story. But then again, my wife is not high fashion. So she probably would be upset to find out that I spent 200,000 naira on a bag for her. She'll probably knock me over the head and say, return it. We could use that money for other stuff. Maybe buy me a 10,000 naira bag or something. Anyway, for those of you who are fashion connoisseurs, please forgive me. I have no idea how much a Balenciaga bag costs, and I don't know if 400,000 is too much or too little for those kinds of stuff. Anyway, but you get the point. So you have to understand what is valuable to the person that you're talking to in the first place. If you understand value, then you can communicate value, or else you spend a lot of time talking cross purposes. So you need to be able to understand value first before you start trying to toast the customer. If I have poor fashion sense, there's no point in trying to toast me to buy a Balenciaga bag. But on the other hand, if you notice that I have the fashion sense of a Ghanaian school teacher, and you happen to have lots of what's this thing called, chinos. You have lots of chinos fabrics that can be made into those designs that Adams Oshomole used to wear. Adams Oshomole is currently a governor in no, he's not a governor in Nigeria. He's a former governor in Nigeria, but who started out his career as a labor activist, somebody with communist leaning. So he used to dress, the same way that Fidel Castro and all these other people dress. Those beige things that they wear with four pockets, two on the chest, and then two close to the sides of the waist, and those beige boring things. I mean, even for people like me, that fashion style was really, really poor. So if you have all that fabric that can be designed into those kinds of things, and you think that I'm an Adams Oshomole type of guy or a Ghanaian school teacher kind of guy, then maybe you might be able to get me to buy 12 yards of the fabric, because I can take that and use it to make 6 outfits that I can wear every single day, or maybe 12 outfits that I can wear every single day for 2 weeks straight without having to change or worry about what I'm mixing and matching and things like that. So that's because I value things one way. So you will have a different sales pitch for the Balenciaga babe, and you'll have a different pitch for the Ghanaian school teacher guy. So understanding value, that's the main thing. That's the cocoa. Understand value before you're able to figure out how to toast people and how to make presentations to them. So we are not going to be good at understanding and teasing value if we are poor at listening when it comes to having conversations. So I hope you guys get the point. We've been talking about value. We've been gotten to the point that understanding value is what it is that is important. Understanding value is also underpinned by another particular skill, and that skill is listening in the art of conversation. Listening is essential to being good in business. So it's not communicating that is essential per se, but it is listening that is more important to business success. Because when you listen, you're able to, how do I put it? Okay, if you're a poor communicator, remember, in the sense of being your elocution skills and your carriage, you're still going to be extremely useful if you can listen to people, if you can figure them out, you can tease out what they're looking at, what agendas they have, and you can figure out how their agenda and their own interests aligns with yours. So that's the reason why listening is extremely important, because if you're really, really good at listening, you'll be able to make progress in business, because you're always speaking the same language of whoever it is that you're talking to, the potential customer or the clients or the associates, the investor, the stakeholder, etc. Now that's because, let's go back to the woman, the multimillionaire woman who is illiterate and trades fabrics in Balogun Market. So even though she can't spell accounts, and she spells it as Akant, Aknt, she's still going to be good in business because she's very good at listening and figuring out who people are, what it is that they want, what agendas are important with them. So if she's speaking with potential investors, she's able to figure out what kind of returns are these people looking for, what kind of business plays are they comfortable with, and then she's able to make a pitch to tailor her presentation accordingly. That, you know what, invest in this my Ankara business because these are the kind of returns we can give you, or you know what, ignore this Ankara thing. It looks to me like you're much more comfortable with agricultural stuff. I also have a farm back home in the village that my daughter is managing. We have 10,000 heads of snail, 5,000 heads of fish, and blah, blah, blah. We can give you these returns, and, on and on and on. So it's because this woman, even though she's illiterate, she's really good at figuring these things out, listening to people, teasing out what they want, what they find valuable, what agendas are important with them, and then she can make a pitch for how these people can align. So they're speaking the same language, even if the investor is very posh, but she is really poor and has to use a mishmash of Yoruba and English, or maybe even have a daughter along to translate in meetings. Oh, and by the way, this example is not far fetched because while we're getting married, we bought some material in Balogun Market, and one of the ladies whose shop we went to, eventually we ended up buying from her. I noticed that while we were there, they were dealing with some high rollers and moving multiples of millions, I won't say how much, multiples of millions in fabrics on the spot. And and that was the sort of situation. The woman was a poor communicator, in quote. Her daughter had to be there to translate, especially when it was folks like us, like me and my mom, who don't speak Yoruba. Um, let's see what else. But of course, if another person came in and could flow in Yoruba, they would do extremely well. But when other people would come in, it was her daughter who was doing the communication. So these kind of examples are not so far fetched. It's real life. Anyway, where was I? So if you have the skill of being able to listen and source people out, you're going to make progress in business because you're always going to be speaking the same language. And this will be the case whether you're prone to typos or whether you have poor diction. Now, some of you might be listening to this and come away with the wrong message. You might think I'm making an excuse for poor communication skills, and I am not. So, if your mom is that woman in Balogun Market, perhaps, I don't know, maybe it might be a good sense for Mama to take some skills and learn how to communicate herself better. It might raise the threshold of the business. So, if you're that woman's daughter, you might talk to Mama and, clean Mama up, not just in the fashion sense, but maybe also in elocution. So maybe that might help. But what I'm trying to say is that if you have poor communication skills, and that is your concern, because there are some people who pay too much attention to these sorts of things. You want to be a wedding photographer, but you're worried about the fact that you're too egotic or something like that. So you think you have to clean up yourself first. You need to talk the talk, walk the walk, dress the part, and all of that. So I'm just trying to tell those kind of folks that it's okay to clean ourselves up, in quote, especially when it comes to communication skills. But don't worry too much about how you express yourself. You can sort that out over time. Pay more attention to your skill for listening and figuring people out, because that's the skill that's going to take you far in business. So the other stuff, how you sound, how you type, how you write, how you present, yeah, by all means, get communication on that. But really double down, especially if you seem to have a knack for those sorts of things, for listening to people, figuring out what is important to them in conversation, getting people comfortable around you, building rapport. Those things will take you far in business. So, thank you very much for listening to today's episode. Let's see what else. Okay, I don't think I have anything outstanding. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.